It's one of the very first questions that people ask you typically when they see you with your baby, and that is, how is she sleeping? Is she sleeping through the night? It just is a big question that everybody asks, and it can be a struggle establishing good sleep habits when you bring your baby home, or even, all the way through their childhood, it can be a struggle. And more often than not, it's simply because you just are not quite sure what to do when it comes to bedtime and all of those things. And so there's a lot of conflicting advice out there. And so I have invited my friend Joanna. She is my friend and my colleague, and she is going to talk to us about some routines that we can do to help your newborn become a really great sleeper. Joanne is a sleep coach, and she helps sleep-deprived parents with their sleep struggles once and for all, without any crying, without any guilt, without any maybe a little bit of stress, but not a whole lot of stress. That she just gives you some really great tools that you can do that will work to establish great routines with your baby.
So yes, I'm Joanna Clark with Blissful Baby Sleep Coaching. I am a trained and certified gentle sleep coach, which means I do not believe in cry it out. And so I just want to preface that right from the beginning, that everything we're going to be talking about today regarding newborn sleep, and we might even be touching on older baby sleep, everything that I do is based on sleep science, behavioral science, and attachment theory. And so the first thing I want to talk about as it relates to newborn sleep is this. In the world of sleep science, the newborn phase is considered from 0 to 6 months. It's this very long, specialized zone of sleep science. Okay? So when you are tempted to start doing research on your newborn's sleep, you have to make sure that you are being specific with what you are searching for. Because what a 2-week-old baby can do versus a 6-week-old baby versus an 18-week-old baby is entirely different.
Right.
And so what happens to a lot of newborn moms is that they come home, they start Googling, and they are frantic with self-doubt and guilt because what their baby is doing looks very different from what they're reading on the internet. And when they call me in this state of complete frazzled overwhelm, the first thing I ask them, what have you been reading?
Yeah.
And where have you been getting your materials?
Yeah.
Again, because newborn phase, 0 to 6 months, if you are not looking at material on the specific age and stage of your child. So again, is your child 6 weeks or 18 weeks? Two very different sleep expectations. Then you're not going to be getting reliable insight, perspective, and guidance on how to nurture your child's sleep for that particular stage they're in.
Right.
So I wanted to say that first, and because this is the number one pitfall for families, that they believe their baby can do this because they read an article on newborns. And really what they're reading is material on a 4-month-old when they have a 4-week-old.
When it comes to newborns, when you come home from the hospital with your baby, or your baby arrives at your house or is born at your house, what are some things that are normal for a newborn baby's sleep? What's normal sleep look like for a brand new baby?
Okay. So let's first talk about kind of the first 0 to 4 weeks. So you often hear that that's what's considered the 4th trimester. Okay. And that is true. All right. You're in the first 4 weeks of life, the baby will still be sleeping a lot. They might have their days and their nights get a little bit upside down, but they definitely are in that 4th trimester. And I really love all the material from Dr. Karp for those first 4 weeks of life. And he has, now that everything is like downloadable, he has some really wonderful, very affordable downloadables that really can guide you through those first 4 weeks of life. So I'm not going to talk a lot about that because he is the expert in that zone. Now, what happens after the first 4 weeks of life is your baby will start to wake up. And this is where it gets interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so a couple of things that I want everybody to understand about newborn sleep. So remember, newborn sleep is 0 to 6 months. Okay. What newborn sleep is known for is inconsistency. And the reason why is in those first 6 months of life, there is rapid cognitive and physical development.
Mm-hmm.
And every single time they are going into more cognitive and physical development, there is going to be an interruption in sleep patterns. The other thing that is really important to understand is that there are two hormones that regulate sleep. There's melatonin, which is your drowsy hormone, and there's cortisol, that's your wakefulness hormone. And in the first 6 months of life, those two hormones are literally physiologically attempting to balance and regulate in order to give you consistency and coherence and longer stretches of sleep. So the way I like to describe it is this, like we as women, most of our life is guided by hormones.
Mm-hmm.
So think of puberty. A young girl can go into puberty as young as like 11 and as old as like 15 or 16. That is a hormone physiological balancing component. So you have to look at newborn sleep the same way. If those two hormones, melatonin and cortisol, are trying to come online to create a physiological balance in order to get longer stretches and more coherent stretches of sleep, it's not something that we as adults and parents can speed up or slow down. Just like we can't speed up or slow down when our daughter might go into puberty. So all we can really do in the newborn phase is what we call sleep shaping. So notice I did not use the word sleep training.
Mm-hmm.
And notice I did not use the word sleep coaching.
Right.
That is for when a child has around 6 months of age, they have mastered the rolling milestone, which is being able to go from back to front or from front to back and back to front. They've mastered the rolling milestone. That is usually a signal that that hormone regulation that we talked about is forming up in order to give you longer stretches.
That's a really interesting correlation there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's wonderful, you know, because
Yeah.
some babies do the rolling milestone really early, which is kind of like,
Right.
okay,
Yeah.
huh, I
Yeah.
might have a new window of opportunity here. So in the sleep shaping mode, what we're really trying to do is honor what is possible
Mm-hmm.
at that particular age and stage. So what is possible at 2 weeks versus what's possible at 8 weeks versus what's possible at 12 weeks. And we're trying to nurture and sleep shape around what is possible at each kind of weekly interval.
Yeah.
And then that makes it so much easier for the parent because they're like, okay, like for example, let me just
Yeah.
kind
So
of
let's talk about how would a parent do that? How do you shape sleep?
well, let me say this. Like for example, around 8 weeks of age, you will start to notice more elaborate sleep cues from your baby.
And what's a
Okay.
sleep cue?
And
What
that,
would that be?
okay. So what happens is right around 8 weeks, you will notice that from the time they wake up from their nighttime to the time that they're ready for that first nap, you will start to notice that that time frame of wakefulness becomes more consistent and that their level of drowsiness, where it's easy for you to tell if they're ready for a nap, becomes more consistent. And if you get them down for their right sleep window, which I'll talk about here in a minute, then it becomes a lot easier for that baby to go to sleep for nap number one and have that nap be a little bit longer because at around 8 weeks, that first morning nap will form up in terms of when they're ready for the nap and for how long they will sleep for the nap.
Okay.
Okay.
So at about 2 months, then you should be able to see some sleep patterns establishing.
Yes. Well, 8
Sleeping around the
weeks.
same
Yeah,
time?
around
Yeah.
8 weeks. And then another time frame is around 12 weeks. You'll start to see some longer stretches at night, you
Mm-hmm.
know, like 4 to 5 hours, which is really, really nice. The other thing that I want to talk about is kind of to answer Anne's question about sleep cues. So babies will show you, if you're watching really carefully, babies will show you when they're getting a little drowsy,
Mm-hmm.
and it's pretty amazing. So I'm going to talk about some drowsy signs that you can start watching for, that can be missed very easily if you're not watching for them.
Okay.
So some babies will get red above the eyebrow. Sometimes they'll actually get red on the actual eyelid.
Mm-hmm.
They may get some rosy cheeks. They might get, red or blue or puffy under the eyes, or red rimmed here. Sometimes what they'll do is they'll get glazy, where they look pretty content and then they just kind of glaze off for a minute, not even for a minute, like 10,
Right.
15 seconds,
Right.
and then they kind of come back into focus.
Right.
Those are all the good signs. Those are all, in fact, I will explain something here. When we're talking about sleep cues, what we're really talking about is that optimal time when it's really easy for your baby to go to sleep and to go back to sleep. Or excuse me, go to like to fall into a sleep cycle and have a more consolidated sleep cycle. And so you want to look for the sleep cues are really a representation of when melatonin, which is your drowsy hormone, is on board and is really relevant and prevalent and ready to help your baby go into a beautiful nap or bedtime sleep. And so I just want to kind of show this to you. Let's see, everything's backwards on when you're doing. Okay, good. So thank you. So this is what I call the sleep window guide, and it kind of shows you that when a baby is ready for their first nap, what happens is melatonin comes on board, and it's creating the hormone to make them drowsy, right? And then right around here in the blue zone is where the baby's going to be truly aptly drowsy, where it will become a lot easier for you to get the nap. So in the newborn phase, I also want to be really clear. In the newborn phase, you can rock, nurse, co-sleep, lay down with, drive, stroller, wear, okay? In the newborn phase, you guys, honestly, the most important thing you can do is really develop the relationship with your baby, pay attention to their sleep cues. If you're a nursing mom, develop your nursing relationship, start to do some co-parenting with your partner. And you can do is whatever you want to do regarding sleep with your baby is fine. This is a time to establish a relationship and to nurture sleep. And again, this is why I use the word like don't sleep train, it's sleep shaping. And in sleep shaping, we can do whatever it takes to help them go to sleep. Hold, rock, lay down with, hold them upright, whatever you need to do. But the key is when you understand the sleep windows, it becomes so much easier for that nap to actually happen. And even if the nap is, meaning the nap's in arms, or the nap, you need to like start with the baby in arms and then you can transfer the baby to the crib or the bassinet, then usually that nap will just be easier and less exhausting for the mom. So what happens is that at right here in the blue zone, remember I mentioned all those like sleep cues? Those are all blue zone sleep cues where it becomes really easy to help a baby go to sleep. But as that hormone starts to wear out, you go into the yellow and the red zone. And the yellow zone and the red zone are like, that becomes where it becomes increasingly difficult to help the baby. So by the time you're in the red zone, what you're going to see from the child is really overtired signs like eye rubbing, crankiness. They start to arch their back and start to fight sleep a little bit. That's red zone. By the time you go into black zone, this is when you've hit cortisol. So what happens is literally melatonin as a hormone literally shuts off at that sleep cycle. And literally it's like a lever. It just turns off like, and then what comes is a surge of cortisol, which is the wakefulness hormone. And this is where you'll have the experience where the child is literally fighting sleep.
Right. Yeah.
This is where you are rocking and bouncing and walking, and
Yeah.
the
We have,
baby is so dysregulated and it's so sad. It's so
mhm.
sad.
Yeah, we've all been there. Those are sad times.
Okay. And you will be there, mama. So listen, some moms get so frantic. I keep missing the sleep window. Yeah, you will, because remember, newborn sleep is incoherent
Inconsistent too, right?
and
Yeah.
inconsistent. So some days you're going to nail it and you're going to feel like superwoman. And then the next day you're going to try to duplicate it and it will be a fight.
Right.
But that
Yeah.
doesn't mean you're a bad mama, and it doesn't mean that you didn't figure it out. It just means that you have a newborn.
Right. Yeah.
So, so I know that's not what you want to hear, but it helps give yourself a little bit of grace to
Hmm.
know that you're doing a really good job and you're trying to pay attention. And when you're able to pay attention because your child's giving you the cues and you can nail it, then you know it's possible sometimes, and that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
So
That's a
what I
great illustration. So did you,
yeah.
yeah, go ahead and finish what you're saying
Well,
and
I
then
just
let's,
want to mention what happens in cortisol land. So when you're trying to help a baby go to sleep or go back to sleep in cortisol land, you as a parent doing this, you're literally going to feel like you're sweating bullets.
hmm.
Like you are going to be stressed, exhausted. The baby's going to be fighting you. So
So,
I often tell families is that if you're 20 minutes in and you're like sweating bullets and this baby's fighting you, you just need to stop and realize that you are in the depths of cortisol land, because cortisol land can last 45 to 90 minutes.
hmm,
And you just want to stop about 20 minutes in and just say, you know what? I missed the window. That's okay. The next one will be coming. See, they come.
yeah.
Next one's come.
Hmm.
And then try again.
Yeah. That's great advice. Just,
Try again.
yeah, just stop. Stop
Just
fighting.
stop
Yeah.
fighting the process. So
Yeah.
because you're never going to really make a mistake with a newborn.
Right.
That's the good news,
Yeah.
right? You're there to
Will
establish
sleep.
a
Hmm.
relationship.
Hmm. Right. Yeah.
If you start paying attention to the sleep cues, you will start to understand their sleep windows.
Hmm.
And if you get the ages and stages chart, you'll start to see which nap is forming up at which time. And those are the naps that you would want to focus on. And
Right.
those would be easier to get
Hmm.
by noticing the sleep windows.
Hmm.
But what's normal for babies that are really young is they might be awake as long as 60 minutes. They might be awake as long as 90 minutes. And you want to start narrowing in that, like, is my baby like a 75-minute baby or a 67-minute baby?
Hmm.
Because it can be
Right.
that precise.
Yeah.
It gets a lot easier.
So just observing your baby is so, so important in those first weeks, just figuring them out because they come to us an individual that we get to know, and that's the beauty
Right.
of those first weeks. Yeah.
And daytime sleep begets nighttime sleep. So if you're really focusing on what we call filling the sleep tank during the day, then night times usually will be a little bit better. You know, if you are a parent of a newborn, you know, just recognize that it's such a beautiful, special, lovely time, and that you have full permission to hold them and love them and co-sleep with them and nurture yourself as you're recovering from birth. And to build your team, you know, make sure that you love your pediatrician, you're in contact with your OBGYN. If you're a nursing mom, please make sure you have a relationship with a lactation consultant. Um, if you I think it's always a good idea to have a sleep coach on your team. Whether you hire them or not is not really necessarily, but more like you are going to the right place for accurate and reliable information.
Yeah.
Because like I said, if you're dabbling too much, then you get really confused and overwhelmed. And so you want to have kind of consistency of knowing who you're getting your information from.
Well, thank you so much. I know that that gives people some good, solid information and resources. I so appreciate you joining me today. And I think that's all for today. Thank you, guys. I will see you next week. Bye-bye.